Inside in time. All right, just one announcement I wanted to make relative to our spring practice. The April 12th game is certainly going to be an opportunity for our fans, to see our team, but it'll be in a different format. It will be, for us, a culmination of the work that we're going to be doing. It'll be a scrimmage, but it'll be controlled, situational. You'll get a chance to see all of your favorite players and be able to be part of what would be a culmination of the 15 practices. But there'll be live scrimmaging, but it'll be in a different format. It won't be a continuous game. It'll be broken up into situational, red zone, some kicking game. There'll be a lot more special teams involved in it. And again, as I mentioned, the opportunity for our fans to engage with our players. Will wrap up the event with an autograph session on the field in Tiger Stadium. And just much more of an engaging event for our fans with our players. So taking a different kind of spin on it and making it just a different event than it has been in the past, and giving our players, every one of them, an opportunity to be involved in kind of like what we just did here, where everybody got reps today. Regardless of whether they were a freshman or a transfer or somebody in our program, we want to make sure that that happens as well. So thanks for letting me get that out. We wrapped up our 5th practice today. Today we tackled, and tackling obviously is part of this game, and it also allows you to get a better sense of just the whole 11 working together, because what happens a little bit when you put it all together, players have to play much more in a controlled manner, right? And they've got to come under control, but they also have to be tackling, and that is getting guys to the ground. And you see things a little bit differently when you get into a tackling situation. And I thought by and large there were good things on both sides of the ball, as you would want. And we'll watch the film and get a better assessment of where we need to continue to get better, what we learned from it today, and we did some things well. So that was kind of my assessment. We had got a lot of work done. We had 2 hours out there, and I thought it was a very productive day. So with that, we'll let you guys fire away.
Ryan, coaches have given various reasons for altering, sometimes closing their spring games and stuff this spring. Just what are your reasons for maybe changing the format the way that you have?
I think my reasons, more than anything else, was that my last couple of years, and in particular last year, we started off, if you remember, with some red zone situational work. We haven't got enough special teams work in those games. And I wanted to include a bigger piece. And so as I looked at the spring practice itself and the game, I think what was more important to me, where we are as a football team, was to get all of our players an opportunity to get reps. And sometimes you don't get the equal amount of reps in a spring game. We have some young players that need some practice time, and this will give everybody an opportunity. You don't have to worry about splitting the squad. You don't have to worry about some of the nuances that splitting it up and having 2 teams sometimes make it difficult for you to get the matchups that you want. I can simply go ones versus ones and have some really good matchups that we can test our players. So I just think the format of a spring game for us in this fashion just makes more sense and allows us to continue to work on the things that we need to get better at.
Some coaches have expressed concern that other schools were watching spring games with the idea of poaching some of their players. Did that factor in at all for you?
I wasn't worried about that. I mean, I think if you're going to lose a player, it's not because of what they put on film in the spring ball. It's because of what's happened, throughout the entire semester or year. I think that was just an easy soundbite to, get out from under having a spring game. That's just my opinion. I think the game itself needs to be treated much more as a work day. I'll give you an example. Like, we had to use one of our practices leading into the spring game to organize the spring game. And we actually lost a spring practice, if you will, of development. Like, we'd have to go through, situational substitution and all of the special teams and who was on what team and pregame and all of those things. And I really didn't get a full practice in on 14. Now I don't have to worry about that. I get a full practice in on 14, and 15, I get some more developmental work in third down situations or short yardage and things that maybe never would come up in a spring game. So it just makes more sense. We were wedded to this idea that it had to culminate with a spring game. And I just think we just took a step back and said, you know what? Let's think like OTAs. Like, you got so many OTAs, use them up. Make sure that you're getting all the developmental work and skill work necessary, and don't be wed to the idea of a spring game. Now, some may still want it. Like, if I had a really young football team that we were playing a lot of young players, I may opt for a game. So we have to go through the tunnel, and we have to go through a pregame, and I put them in the locker room and have them run out. So it's not the first time we do it against, say, Clemson, right? So there are some teams that may want to have a spring game. I just think that everybody now is at that point where let's not be wed to having a spring game just because.
Just want to ask you about your running backs, Caden Durham, going from freshman to sophomore year, hopefully 100% healthy. I know you were proud of the way he grinded through injuries.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Jackson, obviously, has the physical tools, but he's still learning the game of football, right? Can you talk about those two guys?
Yeah, I think you've done a good job right there. That's it. Well, there's the question and the answer. I mean, it makes it easy when you're here. I think add Harlan to that as well. I mean, he's getting a lot of reps, and he's a young, talented back. But go to Caden. The good part about it is he's healthy. But, we're doing some things in the spring that are first time kind of looks for him. And so the spring for him is really about getting some looks. And you guys are out there, and you can see what we're doing. I don't want to give any things away, but those things that we're really focusing on, they're new looks for him. And he's got to get comfortable in that, because that's going to be featured within our offensive structure. As it relates to Caleb, this has been more about him acclimatizing to, his weight, and he's done a great job. He struggled the last year with his size and volume, and he's been great this spring. So he's really crossed that hurdle. And then add Harlan Berry into it, who's just, figuring out the offense, but you can tell he's extremely talented. And now it's just a matter of him learning the offense and putting some coat of armor on him. But I think all three of them are having a good spring.
We were talking with Garrett and Chris Hilton yesterday, and they just kind of mentioned how much they really want to see this vertical passing game take another step, take another level. You guys have obviously added some more speed to this offense in that regard. Just what are you hoping to see evolve in that respect from a vertical passing game, I guess, as you kind of move through the offseason?
Completions, and completions happen with both the quarterback and the receiver, being on the same page, ball placement, holding your line as a receiver. So there's some technical work that they're going through right now in spring. And then you add new players to that. Barry Brown, I mean, he's a guy that obviously has the ability to go vertical and impact what we're doing. And so I think it's technical, work that they're putting in. And then, actually going out and doing it, right, and calling those plays. And I think that's where, I think Coach Sloan feels real comfortable that he's got those vertical threats to go out. We didn't have them at times last year, and now they're healthy and part of our offensive structure.
Can you give us an update on Jordan Gilbert and just your assessment of the safeties through 5 practices?
Well, I would say pleased. When I assess the safety play, and it's only 5 practices, Matt, so it's hard, I'm not going to be able to give you a deep dive on everything, but there are a couple of things that I'm looking for. The first is, are we making tackles at or near the line of scrimmage? And we are. Are we making open field tackles and getting the ball down when the ball breaks through the second level of our defense? And we are. We weren't doing that and have not done that on a consistent basis. Are we, from a technical standpoint, playing the ball in the air well? And I see it in 7-on-7 that the structure of our defense is such that we are. So the early indications are that we're getting that kind of play that you generally see with the development of young players. Deshaun Spears, Joel Rogers, Cooley, those guys in particular, getting a lot of work back there and have looked really good. Now, you mentioned Gilbert. He hasn't gotten any play back there, but here's what we know about him. He's outstanding against the run. He's tough, he's physical. And so plug in a veteran guy when he gets healthy into that mix, and now you really have some things to work with when we talk about the structure of our defense. No, he'll be out all spring, yeah. But he's there every day. I mean, he's been a great leader, and he's actually been the kind of veteran guy that you want, right? He's been around those young guys. He's been accountable. He's been really good.
He's just out because of the shoulder surgery?
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
Following up specifically on Cooley, if I'm not mistaken, he was a nickel at NC State. Is there kind of a transition for him to deep safety? Is it different from what he was doing a year ago in any way?
I mean, he played off the hash and played. So playing in the nickel position, you're either a corner playing nickel or you're a safety playing nickel. He was a safety playing nickel. So he's had experience playing at that position. And we felt like that was the reason why we recruited him, that he was a safety that could play nickel. But there are corners that can play and at the nickel position as well. There's a difference, obviously. One's a little bit more physical at that position than the other, and one's maybe a little bit more gifted in terms of the coveraging, but maybe not as strong against the run. So he was always a safety that could play nickel, and that was the kind of versatility that we thought we would get in the recruiting.
The referees being out there today, what's the benefits of that? Are there new rules for the players to learn as well, or?
No, I just like having the structure of that in a tackling situation. When you go into tackling, I just feel like it's not the same unless there is the structure of having referees out there. The first time that I bring them out, we don't throw flags. I just feel like the flow needs to continue. I don't want to stop it. They'll write everything down. I'll get a report if there's anybody. We had one where Wes Weeks clapped his hands to get his guys to move, and of course that's our cadence, so that is a delay on the defense, so that was a penalty. So we had things like that we'll write down and we'll go over in film study. But I like to have them out there just to build the structure of the game-like experience.
The disconcerting signal thing, that's become a big thing over the last couple of years, huh?
Yeah, it has. I think that there are times that we've taken it a little bit too far, but I think clapping of the hands right at the line of scrimmage, if that's your cadence, I think that's an appropriate penalty. I think if you're at the corner position and you're clapping your hands at a safety, I have a hard time with that one, but I guess it's hard to administer it once You let that one out of the bag, you gotta call it everywhere. But we're managing through that.
When you take 16 transfers, do you think, is there like, in your mind, I guess, a threshold you want to hit numbers, like if this percentage of the group pans out, that's a win for us? Or is it more positional for, I'm talking about this coming year of, if these groups come through for us, that's what we really need?
There's a lot of ways to slice this. Like, going into the transfer world or free agency or whatever you want to call it, whether it's the NFL or college, the base of your program has to be 50% or greater, in my breakdown of putting together a program, of incumbent players. Because there has to be a culture or standard within your program that can stand bringing in new people into an organization. So whether it's a football program or it's a Fortune 500 company, you can't just have this massive turnover without a solid infrastructure. And so our program was over 55% incumbent, meaning there was a strong base within the program. So we felt like we could get up to a particular number, and that number was somewhere in that 14 to 16 range, and maintain that balance within our program. I want to keep a balance of about 55% that are incumbent, and then bring in a percentage of transfers and true freshmen. That's the balance. There's 3 phases to it. That's what the number looked like between 14 and 16, to keep that. Sometimes we won't go that, we'll go the year before, we didn't have room for that. We weren't at 55%. So we needed to take more freshmen to keep building to get to that number. This year, we were in a position that we needed to build the roster strength, and that's why we were able to go further.
Hey, Coach, can you talk about the tight end room and what you've seen thus far from them? But it also kind of feels like they each have, different abilities than the other, right? How does that help the offensive kind of production down the line? Just them.
Well, the tight
being
end position requires to do, a couple of things. Obviously, they've got to be able to block, and they've got to be able to catch the football, right? They can't be, just one-dimensional. If they are, then they become specialists, if you will. And so, I think when we were looking to add to the tight end room, we wanted somebody that could do both. And that's what we found. I think anytime you go in and you're looking for somebody that is in the transfer portal, if he is at that position, a tight end, you better do your work, because you need both. And with Blake, he can do both. He can block, he can catch the football. He's from the state. He knows it. He knows this place really well. He's passionate about LSU, and he's had a really good spring. I mean, he had a great day today. I mean, he's already got a great relationship in terms of understanding our offense, and Garrett's finding him already. So add that to what is already a really elite tight end in Tradez, and we've answered that question resoundingly.
Coach, so you took in a lot of transfers. You've been talking about them a lot. How important was today in particular, the first day tackling and seeing how they engaged with the team, and what were some of the takeaways from those transfers?
Well, we had seen the impact of our transfers over the last few months, and we're really pleased. I don't think that this scrimmage had anything to do with whether this validated their presence or not. Their presence was validated in the way they've shown themselves over the last 8 weeks, their work ethic, their commitment to being champions both on and off the field. They've been outstanding. And these guys are they're here to win a championship. I mean, you go out there today, I don't know, you guys were at practice, right? I mean, you don't hear a bunch of talking. I mean, it is business. I mean, they are here to win a championship, and they take their craft serious. They go to work, and it's fun. Fun. Good. Thank you.